up, everybody? This Friday Night Dark Lights. Thanks for coming through. You are now tuned in live to Super Heru Radio. I am your host, Aseer the Zupateers, along with my co-host, Selena the Empress of 10,000 Years, as well as you, my brother Sagar Assad, and the rest of the universe. We want to say peace, Ashe. How y'all doing? Hey, Mina, how you doing? I want to say shout out to all of those who may have lost or did not lose or whatever. You know how we do. Also, condolences and praises to Brother Don Cornelius, who transcended. As soon as things happen, his unfortunate and untimely passing also really heightens, I think, some of our awareness, because as soon as something like that happens, it's like there's something in me, which I'm sure in everybody else, that starts to immediately start to look at dates, times, people, phrases, words, when they start to describe it, It's like we all start looking for the basic underlying go codes that would somehow indicate some sort of foul play. Because celebrity deaths as a ritual of killing a king is really not per se that. It's more of a ritual to what is called the Lord of Misrule. Okay? And the Lord of Misrule is an entity that represents the concept of what they refer to as the Fisher King, which is the premise of it's all good, no, the premise, which is really the premise of the purpose of using somebody as a fall god or as an embodiment or an effigy or a wicker man to evoke some sort of magical occurrence in the real world. So the unfortunate passing of our brother Don Cornelius, really shows something else. Now, the fact that his name Cornelius is Carnelian, and comes from, again, the stone, carnelian, which is a red stone, which is the stone of Hathor, And he, being a visionary, you know what I mean, going into the whole process of bringing the soul train, you know what I mean, or training America's soul towards a culture based on music. He was instrumental with that. By empowering a disenfranchised mass, he single-handedly was able to galvanize and mobilize black people's consciousness towards a certain time frame or time sphere every week for over 30 years. So you have to understand the power of that. At a time when he started, he was able to do it that way because they didn't feel that he would do it, and it was a way for them to deal with like their little affirmative action type of thing or whatever. And in the process of that, basically say, see, we gave you a chance and your people don't support or whatever. But it turned out to be the opposite. So by the time he had to renegotiate, he was in such a great position because he basically did everything himself. And the only way you can get things done a lot of times in this is to, again, do things yourself. If you are a musician or artist today and you want to get on, you can't really solicit deals. Certain people get deals. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but a lot of times those deals come based upon the hype or the buzz that you build for yourself. So if you was to be fresh off the block and get a deal with somebody without anybody hearing of you, and they develop you and put you out or whatever, by the time your record and everything comes out, you'll already be maybe $1 million, $1.5 million in debt to the merchant bank, which is the label. The label will then, at the same time, if you come out then and then you sell, let's say, 1 million records. Let's say you sell 1 million records. And that means that there's still 5% down that you got to pay them back in terms of the per diem and everything else they put up. But they've already recouped that off the top. So the majority of the money you're going to get is going to come from whatever it is you do in terms of shows and features and things like that. But if you're an independent person and you create a brand in which you can mobilize that brand to the point that that brand then becomes a known, and let's say you sell 100,000 units by yourself, they are going to have to put up they will have to put up at least another 400,000 to, let's say, 1.5 million behind you that you don't have to recoup back, because they are basically going to be paying for the right to distribute their music. And then there's no debt. This is why the A&R system basically was destroyed. But the whole A&R system and that whole thing was created by Berry Gordy and the rest of them, you know. But, again, we're talking about, you know, bootleg gangsters, essentially. So, in getting back to the brother Don, the carnelian, read about the carnelian element and what it does for the body and to the body, and see if it can correspond with him as an archetype of not only the energy that comes through, but the effect that it had on the entire country. Also, the timing, you know. There was also negotiations in which people were talking about they wanted to create a stake in reestablishing the brand, but, you know, he wasn't necessarily with it. So the story is, again, that he killed himself because he didn't want his white wife to get all that money. So, I mean, you know, that sounds cool. It's a plausible cover story, I guess, but why shoot yourself at 75? Number one. And number two, why, whenever somebody wants to stop somebody from getting their money, they don't kill themselves, they have that person killed. You know what I mean? And so it's the opposite. So why would you, you know what I'm saying, flip it for her to then get it anyway? What about will amendment or whatever? If you're not even married to her and you ain't trying to do any of that, what happened? But see, the Jews set up the whole 50, automatic 50% shit in California to facilitate a greater means to get into people's assets. Because remember, Hollywood itself was based upon the pornography industry. So everything in Hollywood is essentially based, has some sort of pornographic aspect to it, just due to the fact that that was the impetus that created the society or the culture of Hollywood in the first place. You know what I mean? You can't really get away with that. You can't really say, you know, you can't really separate the seed from the tree. You know what I mean? Even though you may see the seed next to the tree. Either or, it's still the chicken and the egg, you know? So ritualistically, you know, this is always also inaugurated so-called Black History Month, which is really Bootleg History Month, which is really Negro History Month. However, now with the new awakeness and the consciousness that we're seeing in terms of the Moorish American recognition and the different groups who participate in dialogues to unify us, you know, this is an auspicious time for us to get a lot of things together. Yet, we at Super Heru Radio are of the opinion that in order to get that done, we've got to deal with getting past things like these slayings. Like, if you really look back historically, none of the killings that we talk about that's killings of high-profile or high-established people have ever been solved, man. And unless we investigate it, they never will be. But see, when we investigate it without anybody else, we then can get marginalized and seem biased somehow, based upon of the fact that blacks in journalism, especially, let's say, coming from the period of Gil Noble and the rest of these niggas, you know what I'm saying? They had to toe the line too. So it became a system in which everybody basically became part of the parcel to the same lie. This lie compounding upon itself to the point that people start to adopt it and teach it and receive money from it. Therefore, now it is true because it has become a gradually accepted phenomenon that people have given mental energy to and have manifested the truth of that in their deeds. You know what I mean? You know, most black people, you know, who are conscious of how the racism and stuff is going could agree that everything was moving to a point, and then once we decided for integration, that's when everything just got totally flipped up. And there's nothing wrong with me or you as original people saying, one, that we're original people, and two, that we have should be able to have our own say in what type of government or whatever type of lifestyle we want to live. Yet we live in an age where pedophiles are being crowned kings. You know, like Eddie Long was crowned king in a ritual for the ritual of what they call the ritual of new design. You can always tell Lord of misrule rituals based upon the dress and the circumstance of the people. So whenever there's a ridiculous puppet king or emperor, there's always going to be a huge pomp of circumstance coronation, because it's all of the lords and everybody who basically conquered everybody who are now celebrating that by electing somebody that they can eventually depose and put who they want in charge. So whenever you see the story of like the Sword and the Stone or the Sorcerer's Apprentice, where there's a young kid who doesn't really know anything, but he has to hold some type of big weapon or some type of big cloak or some type of big hat or some type of anything big like hanging off, kind of like, you know, the way Soldier Boy, for instance, would wear his clothes, stuff like that, or people who are on that sphere of hip-hop tend to dress, where they wear such the overly exaggerated clothes. Meanwhile, their frame is like mad small. That's a sign of trying to appear bigger. You know what I'm saying? That's a sign of trying to give yourself more mass to the appearance. This is seen in the habits of birds and animals that may be smaller but may have some sort of plumage or some sort of appendage that is large. And if they move a certain way, it can almost make people think that this thing is bigger than what it really is. And that's essentially how everything kind of revolves in this ritual with the misrule, in terms of creating a fictitious experience and then getting everybody to speculate on it. Meanwhile, the true orchestrators or perpetrators of the act are nowhere to be found, as usual. So and then saying, you know what, to hell with this. I'm shoot myself in the head. I don't want this bitch to get the money. Like, does that even sound plausible to you? Now, I know that these men, when they get with these white women and they live their Hollywood life and they get laid up and all that, they get crazy. However, to be ghetto, if you will, a nigga's a nigga. You know what I'm saying? In regards to who or what, Don Cornelius was a nigga that came from the street. And he also came up at a time where getting a Caucasian woman on your arm was a sign of status and allowed Caucasian males to feel like they could still control you but give you money at the same time. You know what I mean? It was a status thing, and also it was a thing that when you got money, you stay in a realm of cipher with people with money. So whether they black, white, Chinese, Lithuanian, whatever, if they got money, these are the people you deal with. Look at Eve. She didn't just had a secret baby for some white man. You know what I mean? That was probably pimping out in the sex rituals or whatever. But at the same time, she's coming back to the hood to try to do 5-star chick and, you know, be ghetto. But I'm using that as a comparison to say that essentially we're dealing with the same energy. It's the same type of energy. It's trying to appear a certain way more than being that way. You know what I mean? Erykah Badu once said that people don't really want a messiah. They want somebody who looks like one. And essentially that's true. That's why so many people with no real scholarship or academia of any sort are being entertained by the populace. Because the soul, for instance, has reached a level where the train, which is another symbol in programming, the train, like in Inception, there was a train that just came out of nowhere and just ran through everything. And all of the train movies you've ever seen, there's always a part where somebody has to go on top of the train. Like they find some reason, they got to create some reason to get everybody on top of the train. So in a sense, the train is a symbol, a hyperspace dimensional symbol of transmitting utility or moving information. That's why on the show we talked about the Grand Central Station that sometimes each one of us find ourselves in, how that is really our collective species mind pattern of the species mind pattern, the gathering place of our species mind pattern. And then to physically represent that in the real world, as above, so below, we then create a physical place like Grand Central Station, the Denver Airport, LAX, or any railroad hub, that does the same thing. Wherever you got planes, you got trains. You ever notice that? You ever notice that the plane always goes to the train and vice versa? Because essentially we're dealing with the concept of physical things that we physically do and experience as actual representations of things that we have already experienced in the mind in the form of the dream or the imagination that is being collectively usurped by a group of subordinate deities that have tried to force their way into this place by creating an alternative route or a sieve or a well or a dike to catch souls in. In the Bible, this is called the Guff. I said this before, but I want to say it again because this is the area in which these things take place. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a situation where people don't understand what it is they're doing and what it is they want to do for the people that are here, I'm sorry, y'all. We have some great people over. Hey. Yeah, never. This is great. This is great. So, like I said, it gets to a point where the people have created a situation where they don't or can't get back to the beginning because they've confused the issue so much that there's no one left to be able to hold together the stream of thought that would collectively help us all move forward. Because the minute we all collectively focus on something, it seems that the things that we can only focus on are things that come through specific forms of media. That's why media has replaced everything, in a sense, written. However, everything got to go back to be written and taken seriously. So you could put everything on the internet all you want, but when you go to court, they're not, they're not looking at the internet. They giving paperwork to back and forth to people. So there's still going to be a litigus or a logos connected to everything that they do because that is one of the three corners that they need to structuralize the reality. The reality itself as a foundation is structured upon a specific mode of ascendancy or hierarchy. And these hierarchies, hierarchical systems, have been ingrained in the mind state of the reality itself by these so-called deities or subordinate deities, or what some cultures refer to as the demiurge, or what some people call ghosts or whatever. But these ghosts and these apparitions and these things we talk about, the only access point or portal to get here is us. So it's really what's low in us that is allowing this thing to see as a doorway to come into, and then through a gradual system of incrementalism, break down the spirit to the point where this thing now becomes the person, and the spirit of that person gets put where that entity came from, which again in the Bible they refer to as the guff. But they say when the guff gets empty, that's when the whole thing is about to go down the toilet. This coincides with the peace coming to Israel. This is also why this guy had to be given the Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, even though he, started 2 wars, killed 2 people, killed Gaddafi and killed, what's his name too? Osama, right? Well, that's the story. But so at the same time, so they're showing you the parallel of both, you know what I mean? And this is what I mean. As a people, as a family, we just got to coincide with what it is we're trying to understand about the situations at play. So I know, like everybody else, when the news came in that Don Cornelius was dead and then he shot himself in the head at 75, I know a lot of us thought, oh, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It's to the point where it's almost like I don't believe anything. Like when they say this person was shot or killed like this, it's like I don't believe it. It's like nothing that I see. And I don't know if that's necessarily all good because, you know, sometimes there do be truth for shit, but it should be so convoluted and fractured that it seems like unless you have a specific internal view of how you look at shit, you can be easily swayed and influenced by the moving pictures and by how these images and what these things evoke. You know, like I always say, you can always tell when they're talking about a black man or when a black man did something or when a white man did something. Just like you could hear a voice on a commercial and know if it's a black person or a white person or like even like an Asian person. You know what I mean? And I mean like people who have, because sometimes black people and white people can have almost like seemingly no difference. But for those of us that's really on that black shit, you always know. You know what I mean? Like I've been around Caucasian people and I've looked and they white, you know, they think they white. And I look at them like, oh, you don't even know. You don't even know you black. Like you don't even know that you not as white as you think. You know what I mean? Your hair's a little bit too curly. Something's going on. But in this paradigm, that archetype is what gets people money. So again, somebody like Don Cornelius coming up from the whole "Say a lot, I'm black and I'm proud" era, you know what I mean? Those brothers who was able to get into Hollywood and society, even though he had his own company and his own Soul Train thing, there's a part of him that probably still felt that he needed that white woman, you know what I'm saying, to complete that situation. You know what I mean? But I don't know how, you know, you could be around, you know, a Shaka Khan or these people when they was like afroed out and all of that, and then be like, yeah, this is my wife, you know, like I don't know how you do that. But then again, a lot of them sisters was doing that too. So we can't judge the man for the whole situation. All we can do is tell the situation. And the situation, I see, buddy. That looks cool, man. Yeah, my son is showing me how he wraps his towel. You know? But that's how it becomes, guys. It becomes a situation where these events occur and there's like nobody to avenge it. You know what I mean? There's nobody to avenge him. You know? Or any of them. Or anyone who's been suspiciously murdered or killed or whatever. You know what I mean? Sidebar. There's also another thing going on where you got people that's on one hand saying how in order to do things you gotta, you know, use certain inferences and utilities and names and signatures and things like that. And then on the other hand, they're saying, but then on the other hand, it's like, oh, but you can't, at the same time, you can't always be talking about the white man. You can't always be going in on what's going on in terms of the physical world. If we gods, what do we care about that? And it's like, I hear you, that's true. But like I said, I don't know anybody that's God enough or conscious enough or sovereign enough that I've met in this life that is so sovereign that they're not breathing or they don't, every time they're in their car or whatever and they're in a situation where they got to deal with the police, that at some point their heart rate doesn't go up. Whether you get out of it or not. because that's a human reaction to being confronted with a predator. So I don't know how on one hand we got to use certain ideas or certain maxims of law or things that apply or are used in means of commerce to get ahead, which technically then are owned by the white man, but at the same time, you can't necessarily build on the things that he may be implementing every day to further disenfranchise you in the situation. When I hear doublespeak like that going on, again, in the community, I know that it's a subversive angle to find something almost like a metaphysical mountain out of a molehill. You know what I mean? Like, for the record, me personally, I don't feel that the Caucasoid, the black man, the white man, or anyone is more powerful or more spiritual or more zealous or whatever than my people, because I represent my people. But my people are those original Asiatic, Morbidic, original Moorish, Ethiopian, Rasta, Tunisian, Wapian, Wapigian, whatever they are. If they all agree that the situation got to evolve out of this, and we can come to a consensus to do that, then those people are my people. And then those people that are my people, we all get together now where that's we the people. You know what I'm saying? So it's no longer just because this person is this color or is part of this group or not part of this group that I'm going to just automatically blindly just assume that this person got the same agenda as I do. And it has nothing to do with what I am projecting or thinking or some latent or secret fear. See, to me, it's the opposite. The people who are sometimes the most militant and the most boisterous and all of that about how the devil is this or the devil is that, a fanatic or a zealot is always hiding some secret doubt, some secret insecurity. Yo. Look at Judas. Look at Oswald. You know what I'm saying? Look at all of the people that they paint to you and put up to you as patsies to be the example of what happens when somebody who's you keep somebody that's jealous of you around too long. That's the problem. You got all of these people you got people in the community, outside the community, trying to live this clandestine type of community lifestyle where it's like we in the community, but then there's certain people within the community that's really in the community. You know what I mean? So certain people who will be at the lectures together or whatever, but they don't get to hear and go, they don't hear about or go to the so-called sex rituals that go on after. You know what I'm saying? Because if these people was to tell these people about it, then they know that these people probably expose it. So there's a preemptive strike to get understanding and people broken down into a fracturalized version where they feel like they got to be very insular in how they do and how they recognize themselves as individuals. And it's cool, you know what I'm saying? That's just how things are. But that's also a byproduct of living in a Western-dominated Freemasonic-oriented society. So again, Masonry, when I said Freemasonry sucks, which again was an interpretation, I'm not saying that Masons suck. I'm not saying the craft itself in a pristine sense sucks. I'm saying that the modern Freemasonry that is basically galvanized through the G7 Lodge of Europe and is primarily ordained and copied in the Prince Hall, you see what I'm saying? Those people, there are people within those networks and those societies who congress and use the energy of those networks and of those societies due to their ambiguousness as a means to network and coincide and correlate different programs that lead to a nefarious agenda, which again is a grand ritual sacrifice of every human on the planet. So again, I'm not talking about those people that's really doing it well or who's evolving the craft to the level that they want to do it. I'm talking about the people who ain't, and the people, and those happen to be the people that's talking the most shit. And those happen to be the people that are in the positions of power to actually affect change and don't. Haven't you noticed that every so-called black conscious organization or movement gets to a certain point and then the leader gets taken out and then the movement then becomes limbo? Don't you see that that's a protocoled action? It is not just a pattern. It is a modus operandi. It is a way to do things. And it's always broken down from people inside or outside the system. That's a problem because we're not dealing with it from a perspective that it's going to be real. Because again, we take everything personally. So, boom, somebody see the Freemasonry stuff. They don't hear what I'm saying. They don't try to get the DVD. They just hear the piece together trailer that I created for it. And I don't want to make it like I mad soft or got sensitive by people talking about it negatively, because it wasn't that. It's actually a more positive reaction than negative. But I'm just using that as an example in which me using a so-called universal concept generally and then putting it in a seemingly subversive context, saying that it sucks. My overall point is eventually, if you get into that and you're trying to go for power, which is what most people get into it for, enlightenment is secondary. Enlightenment they seeking is power. Let's keep it real, man. You want to be able to get out that ticket. You want to be able to get that handshake to be able to get that good job. You want to be able to get this grandmaster to write you that letter. That's why you in it. You ain't in it to uplift all black people, because if that's the case, then we'd have been uplifted, right? Because that's been the one most predominant society within the epoch of both pre-Dominion and post-Dominion Earth. You know what I'm saying? So what's the deal? So again, so when we talk about the Moors and we talk about this or whatever, and then we talk about Noble Lee, but then at the same time we talk about filing paperwork with the United Nations and all this other shit, isn't that dealing with the white man? Isn't that focusing on what the white man's going to do? Because don't you got to anticipate a reaction from this person that you're allegedly giving paperwork to? But again, some people in this metaphysical thing have lost a common sense. And they promote a lack of common sense in what it is they talking about, because what they be talking about don't be real. But people want it to be real so much that they give so much energy in life to something that is not necessarily factual. And nobody can be 100%. At this stage, all of us are striving to get to the point. But those of us that's being honest about that, and those of us that's trying to appear holier than thou, you see what I'm saying, there's a definite difference. And in that difference, which is, again, manifested through something non-physical, an action, implication, an innuendo, a subversive conversation, something that is not necessarily touched. You can't touch that. So in that, it's only manifested by what you do after that conversation, after that implication, after that subversive conversation, which brings down whatever was not tangible in that conversation, then becomes physical based upon what you do after. This is what I'm talking about, is how things come into being. Things come into being the minute you decide that that's what it is. Up until you decide and give your say and your okay that that's what it is, it's not that. So you can bring somebody and point my signature out and say, well, you signed this, blah, 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 blah. That's your signature. No, it's not. You can get every expert on the planet paying millions of dollars. If I say that's not my signature and I believe it, it's not my signature. And if you ask me 3 times in that sequence, then you got to accept it as true. That's the other thing they don't be telling you in this law. But this is where jurisprudence comes in, which is the positive application of law. But jurisprudence is not necessarily prudent in a situation where people are being steered into, like what my brother said. He said, you got niggas that's running with the cart and then want to get the horse. It's like, no, you got to get the horse first and then the cart and then do what you got to do. Like DMX in Belly. He said, nigga, no, get the weed, put it in the bag, then sell it, then get paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a order for a reason. Yet, when we want chaos more than we want order, what we should always want is a balance of the two, to always be in the middle, to always maintain the reality, because in the middle doesn't mean that you teeter-tottering if you really in the middle pillar, because the middle pillar is what is the synthesis and the reality of what both are trying to manifest as aspects. So when the middle chooses to be in the middle, that is the pillar that goes directly up to the creation. That's what happens. When we choose that, that's what happens. So because we've been building on the concept of the Federal Reserve and how whack it is or whatever, these people finally decided to audit it. Do you see what your collective energy has done in the world? That's a submission. And an admission of guilt, because they're missing $24 billion. You understand? $24 billion. Where that money at? Does it even matter? Because it doesn't exist. You think that's the only amount of money? That's exactly how much? No. On a different note, a black woman in London, who is maybe the third in this case, died from an allergic reaction to hair extension glue. So those sisters that still are using hair extensions, please be careful and find out if there is a chemical in the glue that they're using called dextropreferamine. If there's dextropreferamine or anything that says dextro or alpha hydro, you got to watch out for that, because women are going into black, and it's mostly black women, because those are a lot of the women who get the glue, this specific type of glue. And a couple of other women, more women have gone into anaphylactic shock. You know what I'm saying? So please, dextro, look out for that, because it's serious. You know what I mean? It's killing people. And you don't need to die for vanity, man. You know what I mean? You're beautiful with no hair, long hair, thick hair, curly hair. You beautiful, black woman, with all of that. No, whatever, man. If no other black men telling you, I'm telling you, you're beautiful exactly how it is you want to be, how it is you manifest yourself, regardless of what shade, cream, color. It's dope. Because I was taught that the original Asiatic black woman was the foundation of society, foundation of civilization, the foundation in that of the universe, with the original man, with the original child. So again, this is my culture. So they're now creating a situation where they're now literally killing women. Women are dying to almost stop them from doing it to themselves. So inshallah, please look out. They're trying to create a law against carpetbagging due to the incessant lobbying that's going on. For those people that don't know what carpetbagging is when it started after the Civil War, when rich northern loan sharks and people like that ran down to the South and basically hoodwinked and swindled all of the Southern people who were prisoners of war out of their lands and all of that. These carpetbagger people became people today we know as brokers. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to create a law against it because too many people, lobbyists and these people are getting paid. And the people and the deals they're making, the people who are not, whose name they're using, are being hit with the liens and the fines and the jail time. So anybody that's in negotiations to buy a house or want to buy a house right now, you need to check the EPA to make sure that the house is free of radiation, stuff like that, because they've been having flybys with their surveillance helicopters blasting radiation vents on people in the middle of the night to irradiate targets, the same way they blast targets in movies when they got to put the laser on it, and then so they're irradiating whole areas now as they're getting ready for their big 2012 push. So definitely look for Israel to try to attack Iran before the spring or by the spring. Also, look for them to create some sort of recognition or some sort of lateral date for them to create a Palestinian state, which will eventually corrupt their whole process in the Middle East, because nobody's down with that. And essentially it's going to lead to the attack of, Israel believes they're going to be attacked because of that. So they want to preemptively get at them. But in the process of that, what can happen is that in retaliation, instead of the Iranians hitting the Saudis, what Iranians will do is, instead of the Iranians hitting Israel at the initial attack, they'll aim their missiles at Saudi Arabia, specifically to depose the Saud family, but also to destroy the United States oil fields in Alaska, which then will cause all of the oil prices to go up over here, which is why they're scrambling so quick to try to get this North American Union, a.k.a. North American they don't have the ability to proceed of efficiency to speed up this timetable to do it. So they backpedaling trying to get it popping. But it's probably not going to happen in the process of that. What they'll most likely try to do is do some type of false flag thing over here. Like, if you notice, though, the last school shooting they had, people become so desensitized to these school shootings now, like it's happened in Virginia. And nobody's investigating them anymore. Nobody's talking about it on the news, no nothing. This audit of $24 billion, like I said, 204, which is 6 equality, is a part of the destabilization race that was started last February by elements on Wall Street and Park Avenue that basically redistributed how all this was going to go. So now that these people are dead, namely the main two, so-called Gaddafi and so-called Osama, this has created the backlash. And like we said before, the origins of the whole Arab fundamentalist system or Arab extremist system comes out of the Nazi system. So really we're talking about Nazi systems that play with each other. Arab Nazis, African Nazis, black Nazis, American Nazis, French Nazis, German Nazis, Syrian Nazis. Any society that creates itself where they don't have no other ability and they start to devolve so far in their civilization where they start to, once they get elected, kill mad people, get rid of the intellectuals, and then create the death squads, and then create the secret police, and then create the killing fields and all that type of stuff. If you look at all of these governments, man, that have been established, they all come in the same way, especially since World War II. That's because the Nazi model became the Anglo-Saxon model for the human phenotype after World War II. So power is in even fewer hands. It's even less people in power to do shit anymore than it was back then. And we're worse off. How can that be? Because like I said, there's a double-edged sword and there's all these subversive agendas going on. And you, as the free thinker, have to be the Neo to be able to make sense of all the zeros and the ones that you see coming down in green that make up everything. Like sometimes things be so abstract to me that it's like it don't even be people. They be like shapes, you know? Like I got to bring people into focus sometimes. So I know I'm not soft or I'm not fuzzy. Because if that was the case, then that's how people would be seeing me. But if that's how I'm seeing people, then something else is going on. You know what I mean? I'm noticing that the more clear I am in my communication and direct I am, and the less assuming I am, the more that throws people off. I'm sure the exact same thing is happening to Neil. So systematically, we're at a stage now where, like I said, we're on DEFCON 3. So these niggas done created an overall system that is duplicitous so to the fact that it is now destroys their own hopes of ever creating or generating the antichrist that they want. So they got to manufacture a bunch of them, see which one pans out. So, according to some people's prediction, you know, Tupac gonna come back in 2014. You know what I'm saying? There's a cult of Tupac, secret society in hip hop. There's a secret thing in hip hop, and again, I'm gonna talk about it because I know about it. There's a thing in hip hop where certain rappers, when they want to get on, the ritual is before they go to their first studio session, a major studio session, or right before they want to get their deal. They say, yo, you got to take your best rhyme, write it out. Your best rhyme, write it out. Put it in front of you. And then after you say it, tell them you got to do a prayer to an entity called the God MC. And the God MC will grant you the lyrical value to be able to rap in such a way that you won't ever need to write down anything again. You know what I mean? Well, it becomes almost an inversion to a pen and paper. This is a legend that's been going on in hip-hop for a minute. But nobody talk about it. You know what I mean? But the story is that that's what happened. So specifically, and looking at this now in the literal sense, the God MC could be anything and anybody. You know what I mean? But some people do get to the point where they try to do that, whereas other people are predestined to get in. Like, when you look at A$AP Rocky, I saw on BT, he was talking about that when he was a baby, his mom's was on 2/5 or whatever, and saw Rakim in a drop, ran up to him and asked him to sign a pamper. A$AP Rocky, as a baby, his pamper. She's like, I'm a big fan with me and my husband, blah, 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 please sign. So he signed a pamper, and then he also signed another one. So as he grew up or whatever, they lost the pamper. So he said, right before I did BT, I first just met Rakim, and I got 2 more pampers for him, and he signed them. So we grew on the pampers with the signature. So A$AP Rocky named after him. But in that's a magical story. You understand what I'm saying? That's magic. But black militants don't believe in that. But you ask the Mau Mau, you ask General Kenyatta, and the Mau Mau if they believe in magic or not. You ask Ben Hazim, the great King Sharp, if they believe in magic or not, in the homie. That was an integral and is the most intricate part of warfare. What you think they doing these rituals for? What you think they're creating these things? Where do you think they're coming from? What's the purpose? Where they manifesting out of? How are they becoming real? What's the system that they're using to actualize these infernal magics or natural sciences to occur and result in a physical moon child or magical child based on the will and intent? Where are these things coming from? Again, if I say it, it's one thing. But if this nigga say it, you know what I'm saying? But if what you call it say it's something different. It's the difference between David Blaine and Chris Angel. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, guys, I ain't eat all day. And I did the knowledge to what they talk about the ice cycles of time, meaning they get a drill, a cylindrical drill, and they drill it down into the bottom, into the glaciers, the old glaciers, the real old ones, as far as they can go. And when they bring them up, there are levels on each part of the ice tube that they've taken, and based upon each one of those levels, they can see where Earth was in the Triassic, the Jurassic, the Cretaceous, Proterozoic, you know what I'm saying? It shows you what things was going on. And one of the things that they found in doing that was that they found trace elements of black sand in some of the ice. There's only one black sand beach I know of in the world, and that's in Hawaii. So what this means is what we even perceive as geography in the old school world history was different. But they also found a break in the continuity where the ice, there's a part of the ice that was very irradiated. But throughout the years, as the glacier or the mountain grew or whatever, it grew out of it, or more ice was compacted on top of it to that aspect of where the radiation was low. But that part that they found it in was like in the 56 million year period. So what does that mean? When we look at, let's say, the ancient creation stories or the stories of Kemet, where it's like that, they talk about how the Earth basically once had an orbit of 360 days. This is also in the Emerald Tablet. It's also in an unedited version of the Book of the Dead. The Earth has once had 360 days, but then there was a great cataclysm, and the orbit switched, which created the wobble, which turned it into 355 and a quarter days. The collision that basically occurred allegedly went 10 days after what was then the winter solstice. This eventually contributed to the changing of the calendar that comes over every January 1st. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of people, especially Western cultures, look at it as New Year, because it's an inaugural date of a period they refer to in the occult technologies as the deluge. The deluge. You know, they always got to turn in a chamber and a coin to put something in or under, you know? So let's say if it was 10 days, let's say it was 10 days after the solstice, let's say 10 to be cipher, right? The energy of that Earth would have been so profoundly different before the cataclysm that at the time before it, the original people of the Earth were definitely in one or higher frame or octave of mind. They had to be. Because the way that it was found in the ice, it was almost like an incline that this period was in. And then from that incline, it kind of descended when you look further up the tube. So this makes a lot of sense in the sense of how we can be thrown off our equilibrium. How sometimes there can be so much energy around you that you lose focus of what it is you're doing. Because some energy is just counter to yours. But because we live in a age of surveillance, which is really the age of intelligence, we're at look at where we're at. We're in a place where your social media systems are closet government front systems to survey you. And you know it. You know what I'm saying? This is the world you're living in right now. You know, especially listening to this show, you know that Google is NSA. You know Facebook is CIA. You know Twitter is FBI. You know, we already went through that. You know all of that. So that means willingly we are still every day using devices and things like that we know basically inform on our every movement every day. Yet what else are we going to do? How else can we communicate to each other? We haven't gotten to the point of telepathy yet. We haven't gotten to the point that we could just trust each other to just be where we need to be yet. I mean, all of us collectively. We could do that, some of us here and there, but in the long term, you got to be careful. You see what happened with another white man, another pedophile comes out. He's caught over 30 years. Another Sandusky. This nigga pulled the Sardusky. This nigga been raping, molesting, taking pictures of children, jerking them off, making them eat semen, making them eat feces. All of this is mind control, satanic programming. And why is it all of these white people doing this to black kids? And how is it that nobody in the black community is seeing that this is the problem? Like, you haven't noticed that they don't even have to have you in slavery. They could just buy you. They could just buy a black baby. And if they want to slave that black baby out, like that couple who was nice, little, God-fearing white Christians, right, who got together and they decided to import the black kids from Africa, and they beat these little girls to death. How come they didn't beat the other little white kids that was there to death? How come it was only the two dark-skinned black women that they did that to? And why is it if we or I focus specifically on that and say that we as people have to have something in community to deal with that is somehow focusing on the white man, or that is somehow putting us in a position where we are giving them too much power? That's the problem. The problem to me is we're giving ourselves too less of power. We're not exerting enough power. Think about this in the community. Think about this. God forbid something was to happen to your child. What government agency could you really trust to come in and actively give you some satisfaction, especially if you are a melanated person? Think about that. Who you going to call, ACS? Oh, word, how did the child get this way? Oh, something's wrong with them. You abusing them, or you going to take them and give it to a white baby? White couple. So that way they can fuck them and harvest their melanin and do all the other stuff they doing to them. That when we say they doing it, we were saying they was doing that over 10 years ago. Oh, that's not true. You bugging. So then what I got to do, I got to go find a picture of a Chinese man eating a baby. I got to get the image and show it in the lecture to show people this is serious, man. All these kung fu movies we grew up watching, you never see one where they was eating a baby. You never see one where they was cutting a baby up, preserving it, taking it out of the abortion jar, putting it in a stew. That's how far it was. Same people on some, oh, he's weird, he's crazy. Same people. Nah, that ain't real. No, that's real. This is what's happening. To me, in finding a way to stop that in some ways is even more important than, let's say, creating a so-called government to do that. Because how are we going to have a government to do that? And we don't even have an educational premise in place to deal with that. All these people that's coming into this Marvel shit now, that these people now is allegedly musicians and conscious people and artists and all these people, now they want to be more. It's great. Put your money where your mouth is, man. Put something up. You know what I'm saying? Make something an issue. No. Well, I don't really bring my art into my... No. Half of the reason why some of these people do that is because the people told them, yo, this is really on the come up. Y'all niggas... Because back in the days when I was asking some of these same cats to come to lectures, they brushing me off. You know what I'm saying? But then I leave New York, these niggas is lecturers now. You know what I'm saying? These niggas is coming to lectures. You know what I'm saying? Wearing feathers. It's like, when did that become cool? When did the word come out? What was the memo? Because we've been on this. And we have a right to feel and to be. It's like with anything that you was up on first, and other people start to come up on and shit. And then it's like want to act like they know more about the shit than you. Like, what kind of shit is that? And why is it mostly black people do that? You know what I'm saying? And why is it if I say that that's what some things that happens to be true, that that's what black people do, that somehow or another I'm hating on black people? It's like, when do we become so sensitive that we can't even look within ourselves? We can't even be honest about what it is. But if I was saying it in a comedy show, then maybe it would be different. You know what I'm saying? So I know the game. So I got to put it in books. I got to put it in lectures. I got to put it in songs. I got to put it in videos. You know what I'm saying? I got to put it in a way in which, okay, maybe it's the fact when I'm talking directly outward, this is what it is, that it's like, oh, there's no room for me to add on. It's like, nah, that's not even the case. It's just that when you know what you're talking about, just go for all of us as Super Heru is. When you know what you're talking about, and you can articulate what you're talking about, and you can get to the very subatomic level of what you're talking about, most niggas that surface got to go, man. They can't hang, yo. They can't. What happens is they'll try to get so metaphysical that they wind up sounding stupid. They wind up getting so deep that they wind up using a lot of uhs and a lot of ahs and all of that is breaks into consciousness. That's also what certain curses are. It's a break in the conscious. It's a break in the consciousness, because sometimes the phrase or the sentence will come to a point, but the only emphasis can come to a conclusion, but the only emphasis is a curse, a bitch, or a nigga, or a this. But again, black people are sensitive. We act like we ain't grow up on Blowfly. We ain't grow up on Blowfly and Rudy Ray Moore and Dolomite and Petey Wheatstraw and all this other shit. It's like, how is it now that we started cursing? We cursing in New Orleans, and now it's a problem. Now we vocal. Oh, we just can't take it. Or that's low. It's like, come on, man. We sensitive about the wrong stuff. We be too sensitive about stuff that's the material. Certain people, that's just how they talk. That's just them. So what it means, I'm not going to listen to anything this person says because all they do is curse. Well, maybe I'm around this person to talk to them, to get them to a point to realize that may be what they did, and then try to help them get to a point where maybe they don't have to curse so much. I ain't going to tell you to stop cursing, but maybe you can become more moderate. And that's all you can do. That's all any group or any individual or any society can do, is give you the option. Is when enough people have agreed to the option is when niggas start to get controlled, is when governments and people start to get broke down. This is when all of this stuff begins to crescendo and get to a point where it gets out of control. And now everybody either wants chaos, anarchy, and then they want to enforce totalitarian order, which is basically leads to nuclear war. So this whole war that they talk about with Iran is not an atomic war, it's a nuclear war. But again, guess what? The 9/11 thing was a nuclear war. It was a nuclear bomb, mini-nuke. Why do you think them people were suffering from the same effects that you would get if you was around DMZ where they dropped a nuclear bomb? People hair falling out, people teeth falling out, people liver failure, adrenal failure. Those are radiation symptom sicknesses. How is it that none of the doctors in New York could diagnose that? But I'm a nigga from Brooklyn smoking a blunt, reading a Grey's Anatomy book, and it's like, oh, that's some type of this should say that may be radiation poisoning. How is it I'm making a connection? You know what I'm saying? But again, I can be disavowed because, again, who am I? That's exactly the point why it works. Because again, I am that nigga who's smoking that blunt, reading a Grey's Anatomy book on anatomy, making this conclusion, and then trying to research it and create the supposition to then create the thesis that then becomes the truth when I get the actual documentation. But again, it's still just, that's how I put it together. it's still up to the people to decide whether that's real or not, because all one dupe in the audience that the government has sent down to throw everybody off is to say, well, what gives you the right to investigate it like that? And then all the other haters in the room who don't really want to get free or don't really want to get to a situation where they got to actively do something themselves say, this is my chance, let me jump onto that. And then it becomes a deteriorated, somewhat depreciated level of the lecture in which it almost looks like it's going to turn into a fight. How many lectures have we gone to like that? You've never come to one of my lectures like that. Not one. Respect and big up and love to everybody that ever came out to any lecture or whatever Selena and I threw. You know what I'm saying? Before we left New York and after. But specifically also when we was in New York. You know what I mean? Because those were really labors of love, man. Because there was a lot of behind-the-scenes shit that was really foul, really whack. But again, you know, this is just how things are, so that's how things are going to be. But it don't change the fact, though, that we got to get to a point where we tired of dealing with stuff like that. What good is it now? So all of them people, so at the same time that they're acknowledging you and giving you Moorish American Week and, you know, proclamations and all of this stuff, look who we getting these proclamations from. One of them we getting them from Rahm Emanuel, who again is the North Command Mossad agent. You know what I'm saying? Bagman for the other bagman, who is the bagman for Brzezinski, right? And then any other mayor, again, unfortunately, we got to do the knowledge. Unless our people are in there doing things to implement agendas that help us, the same way any other nationality get up in there and do. But I mean really help. I mean help like you actually see it manifesting in your community. Like you see an empowerment vibe in the community, not just talking about it. Not just but seeing it. Then you know what I mean. You just really just holding the fort. We just security guards. You know what I mean. We're just security guards watching the house for them. And they don't even have the deed, the mortgage, the title to the house. It's in opposition. And unfortunately, these are the problems that we don't understand because, like I said, there's the post-pristine state and then there's the pristine state that we wake up in after we become incarnate physical. But there's still an aspect of you that exists in that pre-cataclysmic pristine state. There's still a part of you that manifests within that area, that sphere of influence, that you can influence now, that you can draw energy from now. So at the time that we should be coming most together, they want to split the tree of life apart. So the original black woman that represents the Bina on the tree of life is also dark matter. Also, all life that wishes to incarnate into physical matter must then incarnate through dark matter. Therefore, it's incarnating through her. Therefore, she has to give a cosign, whether spiritually or physically, which is why they used to make the black woman the white woman's nursemaid. Because the white man needed a Caucasoid melanin-deficient baby, but he wanted it to have melanin-rich nutrients. You know what I'm saying? So specifically speaking, the original black woman then is the magnetic vortex of the orgone energy that pulsates with the life of the universe all at once. The grafted devil basically understands this to the point that it understands that to survive it must control the mind and the womb simultaneously through the spirit. You know what I'm saying? So he, being a Nazi occultist, always wants the most natural original black woman. He don't really want the one with the perm and all that because that's the one that he already got mentally. He need a one that's free of that's free in the crown chakra physically and more reduced in the mental. You know what I'm saying? So in order to do this, like I said, it tends mind control through symbolism and baby separation and post-quote-unquote slave trauma and all this other stuff that they have instigated and instituted through the eugenics process was instilled within her to get her to almost run on autopilot when it comes to destroying her job. So younger and younger children will be getting perms and relaxers and stuff in their head. Younger and younger kids is getting Infamil, Similac, everything else that they know is proven that it's turning little boys gay. It's making their testicles not drop. You know what I mean? You got niggas that still promote tofu like that shit is not filled with estrogen, and then you wonder why a lot of these dudes is infatuated with gaydom and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Excuse me, bro. You know what I mean? All of that is contributed to that. So therefore now they've infiltrated the whole organic movement. So is it really the best thing? Can it really safe to them to say and really put out there that, you know, it's better to eat tofu and soy and all this other shit when they watching that shit in acid press? Research it, man. And again, I used to eat it. So if I was still eating it, I couldn't come out and tell you that maybe it may be time to put that down and start picking up a piece of fish every once in a while. Like, would that really kill you? Like, don't be so stringent to any one thing other than yourself, your truth, your God, your loved one, that you lose your common sense to maintain it, man. You know what I'm saying? When we really do the knowledge, this, all of it, too, is to throw off your own symbolic inner clock. When you look at how a clock, a Grandmaster clock was phased, where it had the one ball in the middle that would go back and forth, and the two balls that would be a little bit, be hung a little bit shorter, and the long one in the middle, that's the symbol of the uterus. Because we used to tell time by the black woman. Because the Quran back then was just another name for calendar or clock. So she was the Quran. She was the original timekeeper. It was through her 9 months, 9 billion years, non-equivalent years of consciousness integration post-birth. The 999, which was flipped into the 666. Like, do the knowledge, man. They got it to the point where how many black women listening have ever actually looked at their vagina, have ever actually put a mirror out in front of them and looked at it. Really, not in a sexual way. I'm talking about in you knowing yourself. As a man, I know every inch of my penis. You know what I mean? Just like every other man. You know what I mean? Because as boys, we're more transfixed to pull it or play with it. Because it's a dangling appendage. You understand what I'm saying? Yet still, we still have more of a tactile relationship. Girls are not really taught to have that type of relationship. Girls are taught to deal with gynecologists. And where does gynecologists come from? Gynecologists come from the white man who was the slave master who abducted all the black women, POW, quote-unquote, slaves, and then started running hot-tot Tuskegee, again, experiments on them, cutting their uterus open, cutting out pieces of their fallopian tubes, eating it, having sex anally with her while they operate, like crazy shit this white man was doing, man, to see how the inner workings of it went. They don't talk about that, though. They ain't going to make a movie about that, and if they do, they're going to get one of these sellout chicks like Valletta Wallace or whoever else to play it and act like it's somehow romantic, like somehow this white man was a great slave master serial killer who was just trying to further science. You know how they do. How many black women have actually done that? Put your finger inside yourself to feel the different chambers within your vaginal wall. Do you know where your vaginal floor is? Do you know where your perineum is? Do you know certain aspects? And I'm not saying it's your fault, per se. I'm saying that that's the fault of the woman who's supposed to train you in that. Blacks, for some reason, there was a generation with the baby boomers, they just stopped teaching the kids certain things, man. It left it up to the social programs and all that. And that was it. And then whatever we learned about sex, we learned our damn self. And whenever you learn like that, you learn the what? The hard way. She's the creatrix. You know what I'm saying? The use of insidious lies and rationale approaches and all of that is basically all technology used to destabilize her and throw off her natural equilibrium. Same way to keep her in a So keep her to going back into the post-cataclysmic state. The whole thing is to keep us from the tipping point that reawakens the aspect of where we were and what we were supposed to be doing. Because it can happen anytime, instantaneous. You could just be like, yo, I was on some bullshit. I'm going to get my life together now and do it. You can do that. You know what I'm saying? You can change whatever you want to change and don't like about your life right now without paying nobody to do it. But when it comes to certain aspects of things that you have come to learn that may or may not be true, that may be situations that people have given you triggers to deal with, it becomes a situation where you don't have anything. You out? Hey, let them know real quick. Let them know where your dental. We have a queen. She's a dentist. They have a great dental center. It's called Barrett Dental Center. Anybody in Florida, check it out. Two original people, beautiful. She's going to give you the info on it right now.
Yes, peace, everybody. My name is Hajar Hassan Barrett. I'm a general dentist here in Miami. We have a family dental service. We offer all types of services from cosmetic to children to the seniors, full dentures, all of that. We have a very relaxing vibe at the office, very chilled, laid back. You don't have to wait too long.
There's TVs in every room.
Very relaxing. We try to change up the vibe. Most people have a very extreme fear and phobia about going to the dentist, so we try to switch that up and try to promote health to the community and make people aware that your mouth, the entranceway into your entire body, is so important. So bless up to everyone, and if you're ever in the Miami area, come and join us. Peace out.
I'm sorry.
Be nice, everybody, okay? Hey, guys. Thank you, Mama, for coming through.
No problem, man.
All right, man. Yeah, G, for real, man, check that out because that's the whole nother thing. We're going to try to get the system on to talk about the whole, we were going in on the whole the dental thing. You know what I mean? Only other person I heard talk about the dental conspiracy was Brother Daoud. But there's a big thing with that we're going to get into. But please support the sister. Again, they're called Barrett Dental Center. She's very, very good, conscious, original sister, you know, original black family, a black man, black woman, black child. Let's support that, man. It's 305-696-9999. Again, and this is also for people out of state, man. Florida's only 2 hours away. I know in New York they hit people in the head with that dental, so you can come out and really support the homie, man. It's really, really good people. But you know, getting back to the whatnot. These serial killings and these things that's going on need to stop because all of this is an attack on the original people, the original man, original woman. And we're at a point in our history where we are free of a lot of the negative karma. So now the karma we getting is new shit. We putting new karma on ourselves by out here promoting shit that's not true. By out here trying to castigate people that's really doing the work while niggas is doing the opposite. But because, you know, of marketing, you know, it seems the opposite. And it's always like that, man. In every society or thing you'll get into, it's always going to be situations like that because we haven't reached the karmic end of that actual period. And like I said, there's an element in me, it's like karma. I don't necessarily believe in it the way a lot of people do. But I do know that the positive aspect of karma is dharma. And if anybody has that coming to it, it's us. And I find that all free thinkers carry that one thing with them, and it's the fact that most of the stuff that you ever got dealing with this consciousness, you had to go out and get it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I knew, like I was hearing people doing tributes and all of this to the Sister Myra and all of that, but when she was doing the bulk of her work, man, none of these people was there. When she needed somebody to help pick up her son EJ, and that was me and Selena. But nobody called us to be on it. And there's a reason for that. And I illustrate that to you to say that there's a reason for that. Because I really knew her. And remember what I told you Erykah Badu said. People don't really want the real. They just want the one that look like they real. So a lot of times that be the system. But we are here as physical examples that have been in the thick of it and have gotten to a point where it's like we are seeing the forest for the trees and seeing the horizon to come, and that horizon is based upon not what any of us have projected. The minute somebody's going to tell you that they got the one way to get you where you need to go with it, that person got you. Because everybody is contributing something to it. Yet some people are more consistent at it than others, and some people are more sincere than others. And a lot of times you got to always monitor yourself, that the part of yourself that don't want you to get free is not standing in the way of the part of yourself that do. What does the Bible say? The Bible said he has been made enemies even unto himself. He has been made even an enemy unto himself, unto his family, unto his child. So how, if I'm an enemy to myself, how I'm going to enter into a treaty of peace or friendship with you so that way we could set up some type of nation and we could do this and do that? How is it that that's going to be as if you already in the group and then I'm going to come into the group and then I got to do some sort of ritual or some sort of initiation to feel like I'm on your level? Or you looking at me like I'm some sort of subhuman or inhuman because I'm ignorant. I'm in the same place that you was at, but instead of you having the compassion, which is what they should have had when you was risen or raised up, however, they don't. They want you to go through the same thing so that way you can have the same embossed negative experience that you now have to put in a positive light. That shit is bullshit, man. I'm sorry to be, explicative, but it is. Sometimes false does not emphasize the point like bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's true. Like I said, when I came into this thing, it was totally, I think, one of the last people blessed, all praises due, to come in at a time of the old system where you was brought in by somebody who already did something and then, to kind of do something and then, you do their own. Only difference is after the first joint that I did with the brother, we then kind of parted ways in terms of us working together the way we were in the first two tapes. But that wasn't a problem for me. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that it was a problem for other people. But that's, again, their opinion, and that's okay. Because I feel blessed enough to be able to say that I feel I have no enemies. I know that people think they are mine and want to be my enemy, but really to have a real enemy with me right now would mean like I would have to care to a certain degree about situations occurring or not. And I have no, I don't even think about any of that. You dig what I'm saying? So there's a part of me that's so almost detached from taking things personally, you know what I'm saying, that I can just be honest about where I'm at. You know what I mean? And being honest in where you at is having faith, again, in knowing what you talk about. And again, I know what I'm talking about. And I don't try to talk what somebody else talk or listen to what somebody say and expound on it like that. Or that's why, in a sense, sequester myself. And when you're a good researcher, you have to do that. Any good researcher will tell you to get to a point where you want to do the nonsense shit. You can't be going out all the time. You can't be on the, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain shit, if you really do the nonsense shit, you got to be stationary to allow the energy to siphon around you and build up to be able to discern what it is you're doing. But if you researching and then you on the phone and then you smoking your blunt and then you trying to pick up your kids and then you know what I'm saying? And then you got to do the show and then you got to call this other person, do their show, and then you got, when are you doing the nonsense anything? Same thing. It's hard enough to be conscious and then you got a job, or worse, be conscious you got a job, but then at the same time your mate may not be just as conscious as you. Then you got to deal with that. These are the things that I be doing in knowledge through that help inhibit or detract away from us just getting it all together, just because it's hard just to do that. So again, once you get to the point that you can do what you want to do, you can really take it far. Our job is to help people. Me, and when I say our, I'm talking about specifically me and Selena. I think our job as transitional specialists are to help people in their transition. I always meet people, and this is from when I was young, so I know that what I'm doing now I'm supposed to do. Because from young, I would always meet people in transitional periods, whether it was going through something or taking it or whatever. And these were always the case. And as that was always the case, and that was always a situation where that happened, I learned very young how to somewhat detach from certain expectations. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's a situation where if that's how it was, if I went against that, if I tried to hold on to this, when I tried to hold on to certain things that were meant not to manifest or meant to be over, that's when I got burned. That's when I got put in a situation where I wind up losing something or having to let something go. It's a theme, you know. As soon as I work with somebody, nobody working with that person. Then as soon as we do something together, then this person is with all of the other people that I don't really mess with like that, who I don't work with anymore based on exploitation reasons. But again, maybe they just exploited me. You see, that don't mean that they're doing that to everybody. That may just be my experience with them. Therefore, I can't castigate them and say that that's who they are totally. But I can say that's who they've been and are with me. So if I reserve the right not to be in a situation, then as an adult, as a man, that should be my preoccupation, especially if I'm keeping it 100 with you in the beginning and letting you know. Yet, the men of my generation have become very sensitive, yo. The men of my generation have become very, very emotional. You know what I'm saying? To a point of detriment. You know? One thing that Freemasonic life teaches you, or clandestine, or I would say fraternal organization teaches you, is how to keep a secret. But that secret is based upon the secrets of everybody in the order. But you don't know what secrets these people hold, but you got to hold all of their secrets. It ain't just the one in the lodge what you do there. It's whatever they tell you there. It's whatever they tell you outside. So now you're obligated to hold down their treachery too. So now you're part of the two. Because knowledge of a crime, right, according to the law is what? Participation in the crime, right? Right? So, you know, if it sheds skin, you know, it's a mammal. But if it sheds skin and got venom, it's probably a snake. You know? And so the whole process of Western Freemasonic thinking generated a system that created what we now refer to as intelligence, or the lack thereof, or the secret nature of societies and governments. This has always existed, and it always will exist in what, again, we perceive as Western society, which is a predominantly Anglophile Nazi society. And it doesn't just revolve around people who are Caucasian. It are people who are implementing the Nazi tactics that were put forth on the world after World War II, that everybody has been participating in, that every genocide has followed the same protocols of, from the killing fields in the Khmer Rouge to the thing that happened in Uganda with the Tutsis and the Hutus, to the genocide in Somalia by the Janjaweed, to the ethnic cleansing in the Balkans by what's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. All of that. All of that is a part of the same agenda. Because if you look at how these people did everything, it's the same way. Somebody says that this person is genetically inferior, so we got to kill them all. This is what's been going on for the past 150 years, man. But this is really just a span of a greater 6,000-year cycle that is compounded on a 60,000-year cycle, which is connected to this whole Yakub thing that everybody knows exists, but nobody want to give credence to. Why you don't never see black people adopting white babies? Why you don't never see that? Only time I ever seen a movie really about that. Well, why you don't see that? The only one I ever saw like that was that movie Four Brothers, but then the mama had to be white. You see what I'm saying? So to a white woman, she adopted 2 white boys, 2 black boys, and they live in the ghetto. She got a tattoo. Like, why not just make it a black woman? Especially with knowing that the whole mammy system existed in America since the antebellum South. But nah, yeah, that's some other shit. You know, that's not really relevant. You know what I'm saying? To where we are. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be more about you know, including everybody and getting everybody. It's like okay, that's okay. But again, is everybody going to put in the same amount of work? Is everybody going to say no to the same thing? Is everybody going to be in a situation where at least they act accordingly? Whether people agree with the United States military or not, whether they're conscious or not, whether they want to be or not, they go into it in regards to whether or not they know the white man, the devil, whatever. When that nigga screaming in your face and saying whatever, you saying what? Sir, yes, sir. Right? Because you put yourself in a subordinate or humble position because you want to learn and get what it is you need to do to move into a higher rank. So if we could do that to people that's not ours, why is it when we do it for each other, then somehow or another I'm trying to rule over you or I'm trying to control you or whatever? Why does it devolve into that? Because things like MGT and GCC is only limited to those people who know about that. For those people that don't know what that is, MGT is Muslim girl training, GCC is general civilization class. These were the classes implemented by Elijah Muhammad. But see, what you got to realize is that each one of these personages of consciousness represent a different aspect of black consciousness and evolution to get it to where it is right now. To get it to be where it is right now. Therefore, when we look at these great, quote-unquote, black leaders or original men who put forth down, original and put things down, we, unfortunately, look at them the way Western people look at their history. We look at it from a linear perspective, and we look at it from the perspective of this is how they were then, in a disconnected way. Whereas when white man is looking at his history, he's looking to connect to something. When we're looking at our history, we're looking to remember something. Therefore, we're different people. We have different agendas than what we live in this American life for. And there should be nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, they don't want to have a world where you exist without them. They don't want you to have a society that's just your own, that's just indigenous and running how you want to run it. They always want to have the ability to invade where you at. And they is anybody that's trying to uphold this old world view of the world. The feudalism is not enough. You got to get it through me shit. I'm like, I'll put you on. Whatever you want to know. If I know, you know. But if I do that, don't try to make it seem like somehow or another now you, like not only are we on the same level, but don't make it seem like now, like you got the right, like, to talk down to me somehow, and I never did that to you, and I put you on. Don't try to make it like your word is whatever now, because you may have gone deeper into the thing that I put you on to that said, oh, this may be good, man, for you. Now you in it, and now you the grandness or the do this or whatever. And it's like, because you with these niggas now all the time, now it's like, I'm whack. But you don't even know about these niggas. It wasn't for me. So my thing is, I keep it real with you. Put you on or whatever. But just don't diss me and don't give me the credit for the work that I do. Because I don't try to do nobody else's work. I don't try to eat nobody else's food. I just happen to be able to be universal in my approach. So I'm not strictly telling anybody that you're this or you're that, and because you're this or you're that, you are whatever. Whatever I may discern or divine from the situation, I still leave it up to the person to tell me what they are. I let the person I'm meeting be who they want to be. Whether or not I heard or anything about this person prior to me meeting them is irrelevant, because when I meet them, I'm meeting them. So whatever somebody may have told me or whatever about this person, until they do it to me, then I'm not going to take that. But it's a different thing going on. Like I said, you got certain entities that split at birth, and they jump in different people in different hemispheres. And then when they get together in life at a certain time, the catalyst will become hating on you. And so the entity in them wake up, and then they realize they got something in common now, and now the entity that was really one that's split up into three is now one, and now the impetus and the energy is now hating on you. That's what they make their life work. Like my baby mother make hating on me and keeping me from my children, they life work. You understand what I'm saying? For some people, it's their life work. You understand? So what? Well, I'm going to hate you for doing what you're supposed to do. If that's what you're supposed to do, you feel that's what you're supposed to do, then do that. You know what I'm saying? Some people's life work, parents' life work is to stop you from doing what you're supposed to do. Your parents. So if that's the first inkling of social relationship you got to fight off when you first come into this planet, everybody else is a walk in the park, man. If you could survive that. Then I'm going to have the mass ritual of the Super Bowl. And really now, look how deep it is. Football has become so passé and so baseball-like, right, that people look forward to the commercials more than the game. They're going to get Madonna to come and do another ritual, right? But I bet you if she whipped her titty out, there'd be no problem, right? But again, Janet Jackson put herself in the ritual to do that. And who left her on the lurch, left her in the lurch to look whack and look like a hoe? Justin Timberlake. The same one these black chicks be swooning over and be trying to get to notice them and all of that. Every movie that nigga do, he calling you a nigga. Every movie he do, there's some way where he could call you a nigga in it. Well, he can act like the black guy. Right? But he can do that because he got a bunch of dudes, black dudes, right, co-signing him, and they'll do that because they wanted his audience. So again, make the music you want to make, do what you want to do. If you want to rap, if you want to sing, you want to dance, you want to write, you want to surfboard, whatever you want to do, now is the time to do it, man. Don't get so caught up in the rhetoric and the destruction of Western society that you lose the fact that you still incarnated here to have an experience, whether the world was ending or not. Don't let these niggas make you feel that the end of their world is the end of your world, because that's what they're trying to do. And you got a lot of people in the so-called black or conscious community that's trying to go along with that, who don't want you all of a sudden to focus on the same shit they've been selling you tapes on for the past 12, 13 years. You know what I'm saying? You never hear me tell nobody don't do the knowledge to nothing. Anybody tell you don't do the knowledge to that is trying to put you in some type of mind control, man. Anybody tell you that you got to eat this, eat that, at this time, at that time, if you don't do that, unless you're trying to create a certain physiological reaction within yourself, and unless it's like cleansing or something like that, then everything else you got to eat this at this time and eat that at that time, and if you don't eat that, then you got to substitute it with this. All that's mind control. All of that is mind control. But see, when we say mind control, you got to understand that there really is no way for somebody to control or read your mind. What there is are machines that can gather and glean images from the mind, transmit them through the brain, and then put them into some sort of fiber optics. Therefore, all control is based on trauma and post-hypnotic suggestion. Or mind control, that is. You understand? You know what I mean? Dope. That's dope. Thanks, Sky. And you know what I'm saying? Like this is where it is. So with all of the overall destruction of how this society has now become what it's evolving into, by this dude's second term is when the new so-called government will come in, because this will be the first post-2012 government. You understand? This will be the new world government, and he will be the new world president, which is why they're trying to consolidate the North American Union now by hiding it under the guise of the pipeline, because they know when they go to war, the oil is going to be restricted due to the fact that Iran may nuke Saudi Arabia. If that then happens, then Pakistan has to come to the aid of Iran, which then will put them in direct contravention with the United States and Britain, which will then force the United States to take all of its troops from Afghanistan to move them down into Pakistan and everywhere else. Which then, what they want to do is set up the overall pipeline that goes from Morocco through Algeria, through Tunis, into Egypt, into Israel, down into Iraq, over into Pakistan, up into Afghanistan, over into by the Khyber Pass, and then create that flow of oil so then that way they can form their eventual invasion of Russia or China. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. If I could rattle it off like that. Yeah, but he didn't really sleep. So, yeah. No, he didn't. He didn't. So that's what I'm saying. So if we do the knowledge to, let's say, the cycles of time now, we are now in the alleged last harmonic cycle, cycle 9 of the 9th underworld. Okay? And this is basically at the stage where we are in the transcendence into the higher galactic awareness, the higher galactic consciousness, which is supposed to interface with the outer and the other worlds. You know what I mean? This is basically life for us that is resonating on the frequencies of lunar, solar, cosmic awareness, cosmids, plasmids, hemonids, cosmic seeds. So we're here. You know what I mean? So all we got to do, like I said, now that we're here, is to sit on the throne. Now that we're on the throne, all we got to do is make sure that we create an institution that we then can trust. And I believe that trust begins with each one of us individually being honest with where we are right now and what it is we can achieve right now. Be realistic with yourself so that way you don't put so much on your plate based upon how good somebody's telling you something sounds when really niggas is just selling tax lien. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very a slippery slope. You know what I mean? The consciousness. And they are putting things in the hood and in the way every day to stop people from that. Right now, you got to look out, young brothers. Anybody that's from the younger generation listening to the show right now, whatever, yo, man, y'all got to stop smoking that K2. This shit called K2 in the hood, man. And it's like weed. And everybody is smoking and shit. It's like niggas is like I don't even need to smoke herb no more. And it's like, that's cool. But the thing is, when they got something clicking that's like weed, but it's not weed, and it's in the hood like that, it was like the beaties that they used to sell in the hood. Remember the season when everybody smoking beaties? And then all of a sudden people started waking up with emphysema and all this other shit based upon the formaldehyde they was putting in the beanie. You know what I'm saying? You might as well smoke a sherm if you want to do that. But it's called K2. Fathers, mothers, look around the crib. Make sure if you cool with your kids smoking herb or whatever, make sure that the herb they smoking is herb and not this K2 shit. Because all of that stuff is basically like some next level, like germicide mulch. That's a low grade form of, again, you don't know what's in it. So please be mindful. You know what I mean? Also, look out, sisters, because they're not reporting that there was another rash of murders, specifically in the eastern seaboard area, based upon this serial killer that we first reported in here in 2010. And this dude is just racking up bodies or some Jack the Ripper shit, and nobody's doing nothing about it. And he's targeting specifically black women. So for those people who do the knowledge, also those people who are invested in stock markets and stuff like that, what you might want to do is start to look into this whole merger with Facebook as a means to make some quick bread, because they're going to go up. But the bottom is going to come out of that shit when the actual confrontation with Iran or whatever starts, because China has already set forth. There's been a Cold War between the United States and China since 2000. So from there to now, they've been at Cold War with each other. So there's been cyber attacks back and forth, and Chinese, and they've been transferring and swapping prisoners for a while. So these dudes is going to basically do something and try to use it, because they know that Facebook is a part of CIA. So they're going to use that, and they don't want that to come to their country, because they know that the government will use it as an interface to do it. So definitely look out for that if you got stuff in that. The bubble should come out of that by the end of the summer. Also, look for a higher interest rate and income tax to come down based upon them having to pay for the war. And look for a retaliation or false flag situation to go down based on that, probably when Mars goes direct. You know what I mean? Whatever's going to pop with Israel and Iran, that's probably going to pop somewhere towards New Year, which is around anywhere between, let's say, the 17th and the 23rd, you know. And there's also a major solar flare that happened that they didn't report a little while ago. And it licked the upper atmosphere again over Europe, and there was a wave of people just dead behind it. Not to laugh at the death of the dying people, but again, it's just funny what they choose to report and what they don't when it affects them or makes them look whack. So as we close out, those people who are interested in receiving a flyer for the new class we got coming up, please email me directly at houseofl@hotmail.com. Also, for Original Asiatic History Month, we have a special on our site, www.aseertheducateers.com. Anybody who buys 2 DVDs can get a double DVD free, and if you get 2 more, you'll get a DVD for free. So
Buy 2, get 1 free.
yes, you heard it. They heard it. And
we need to help this month.
also, thank you guys for the donations that you've sent us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for all the contributors who have helped get us that much further to our goals. And again, congratulations to Selena for support that she received for Melanin Active Yoga DVD. You could also check on the site www.aseertheducateers.com or inbox us on Facebook at Aseer Ali Cordoba, Cordoba, and inshallah we'll be able to speak to you guys soon. If you guys have any more questions about this or also for readings, lectures, bookings, shows, just holler at me, man. Again, houseofl@hotmail.com. I hope everybody had a great night tonight, as this is Friday night. If you're going out tonight, please be safe and secure. Thank you for the Verrett family. Again, Verrett Dental Center here in Miami, Florida. They do really, really good work. to original conscious people, original black man, original black woman, and original black child. Beautiful. And if you want to check their services or see what their prices are, how they could work, you can email. You can call them at 305-696-9999. Definitely got to take care of the teeth. So again, inshallah, guys, be safe, be strong. I hope you guys are well. And you guys have to let me know. And we'll speak to you guys on Moon Day night. Peace.